See an incredible matchup here in round 7, our last round of Swiss, as we are ready to head over to the stage and showcase 2 of the best Japanese players we have here in VGC, and a name people should be very familiar with, as we have 2019 World Champion Naoto Mizubuchi facing off against Shohei Kimura in this last round. Naoto was 0-2. And now he might make top cut. So now it's time. Swiss round 7, the last round. Winner moves on. Loser has to watch top cut with us. Naoto Mizubuchi on the top of your screen with a Charizard and Groudon lead, and Shohei Kimura with Zacian and Kyogre. So 3 restricteds here on turn 1.
A lot of trainers throwing it out, and we already get to see the weather interaction that is so vital for getting that early advantage. Groudon, the slower of the 2, so if Kyogre does get to come in with the rain, will potentially outspeed it, but the Groudon being slower means right now it has drought, it has that protection from a water spout, from an Origin Pulse. There is, of course, the world that Shohei could reset it. We've seen some players go really aggressive into this matchup, immediately resetting the weather with a weaker Max Geyser, but being able to capitalize off it in the next few turns. You know, there is also a world where this Zacian could pair up with the Kyogre, assuming it's the Charizard taking this Gigantamax here. Then, you know, just Behemoth Blade, Max Geyser could be enough to get that knockout and give you a real large element of control. But before you get to do any of that, you know, this Charizard is going to get to play the game. It is going to be doing a preposterous amount of damage with Solar Power active right now, and that is something you need to make this right decision if you're Naoto to start the game swinging. And here is the Dynamax on the Kyogre.
Yeah, no switches from either trainer on this turn. Instead, they're both going to Dynamax, or in Naoto's case, Gigantamax with his Charizard. Shohei is in a tough spot because Kyogre is going to have his water damage reduced thanks to the drought ability being set by Groudon. And with Solar Power as Charizard's ability, he's going to do more damage while the sun is up. But a Behemoth Blade from the Zacian will do double damage into Dynamax Pokemon, so that's going to be double. That is hardly restricted since it did half of his HP, and a Max Airstream from the Charizard, just going into the Zacian slot there to do a little bit of damage, but more importantly, get the speed boost. Now, next turn, the Groudon could be faster than the Kyogre.
It could be faster right now.
It's faster right now because of the dynamic speed, making it +1, getting rid of Zacian. So all he got this game out of his restricted was just that half damage there. But with the Max Geyser in the sun, into the Charizard, not enough for the knockout. Charizard double targeted that turn and still hangs on.
I didn't know if it was going to be enough, and this Charizard shows that it is nowhere near being knocked out. I mean, it's low, but it keeps going.
And it's a weakness policy, so now he's even stronger.
Oh, he's got to capitalize on this weakness policy, and honestly, the fact he is so fast is going to force Shohei's hand a little bit. Shohei has to bring in a Pokemon that can either fix up the speed very quickly, and he has options to do that, right? In the Whimsicott, in the Thundurus potentially, but it's going to be the Incineroar. The Incineroar can't stop the Charizard this turn.
No, and it's probably, usually you would bring Whimsicott as many times if you did bring it as one of your 4 Pokemon. So I'm wondering, now that he has shown Incineroar there, that he probably does not have the Whimsicott or a way to slow down the Charizard.
Yeah, if that Thundurus isn't one of those prankster Thundurus carrying something like the Thunder Wave, he's not, or the Scary Face in some instances, isn't going to be able to stop the Charizard that way. So you may as well just try and slow down the Groudon for a turn. Of course, you do have control with the rain for now. It looks like the Groudon just leaving. It's all about Charizard in this turn. And honestly, after the weakness policy, I want to see how much it does. While the rain is up, here comes the boy.
Charizard taking 1 turn to hang out as he needs to switch Groudon away and then bring it back in to get the sun back up. So that's why he is for the Max Guard. But Max Strike into that Max Guard because Kyogre and Shohei were expecting the switch in from the Gastrodon. You don't want to waste that and give it a Storm Drain boost.
Very nice heads-up play there. And the Max Strike, of course, would have helped out a little bit with the Max Airstream. What's very noticeable here, though, is that Groudon in this situation, you know, thought about the fake out. The Incineroar coming in and protecting is certainly a curious one. You know, at least you could have done something there. Because if you're the Charizard, you probably have to focus on this Kyogre a little bit. Now you've repositioned, though, as Naoto. Yeah, Solar Power is about to come back. I can imagine the switch right away. You've already shown that you have a way around it. So just bring in this Groudon once again. See if your combination of Solar Power and the weakness policy boost is going to be enough to completely tear through something like this Kyogre with maybe a Max Airstream to help the Groudon out in future.
This is a very telegraphed switch in, but there might not be enough for Shohei to stop it.
My goodness.
Look how strong that was with the sun boost, with the weakness policy boost to its special attack there. The Max Wildfire being able to knock out the Incineroar, and then the Max Lightning into Charizard obviously is going to be enough to take it out.
That Gastrodon has actually caused so many problems, though, and I respect the Max Lightning or Max Strike could have been pretty fine, too. But what it did was it meant that, you know what, this Kyogre's going to want to stay in, it's going to want to attack. And the big thing here, and what I really like from Naoto, is he goes after that Incineroar, knowing just how much damage he has available to him with the Solar Power, with the Weakness Policy boost. Get rid of it, and now that Kyogre is locked in the sun for the rest of the game, there's also a Gastrodon in the back, and this Groudon's probably in a really good position to try and just close out this game because it's going to have control of the weather. Of course, there are a number of other options that Naoto could bring. Could have that Lunala available in the back to try and tidy this one up, and the Gastrodon just being shown right now. So if he doesn't need to show it off, he won't at this point. The big answer, though, is there for Naoto. I can imagine that we are going to see his fourth Pokemon because Gastrodon Rillaboom is a very one-sided matchup.
But helpfully for Naoto, even though his Gastrodon is terrified of the Rillaboom, but we've seen from Kyogre, the Max Strike, which is usually Hyper Beam, is like a big sign that this is Assault Vest, right? You know its move. And by having Max Strike and Max Lightning, he probably does not have Ice Beam, so while Gastrodon is on the field, he can never go for those water attacks into the Groudon, and he doesn't even have the Ice Beam to hit it super effectively either. Right,
so that Gastrodon is going to be a big problem, and big control here as well, with the Groudon on the field, being able to say, you know what, I can at least hit this Rillaboom at some point with a Fire-type attack in the sun. The Rillaboom playing it safe. I do think that's very, very wise. But the Water Spout, yeah, he's just going to try and do it in the sun. Give that Storm Drain boost over to Gastrodon, which, if it gets the opportunity to attack, is going to be really, really big. But I just don't think this Groudon is getting anywhere near knocked out in the sun, showing that it has a very safe build. But the Heat Crash going into the Rillaboom.
Yeah, the Protect there was crucial for Shohei. He's not able to take any damage. And because the Electric Terrain disappeared when Rillaboom switched in, now Yawn is back on the table. You're going to have a little Wildfire damage there, but at the end of next turn, the Kyogre would be forced to go to sleep after it attacks.
Yeah, that's really, really big. And this actually is a very interesting item choice on the Groudon, the Leftovers. Not something I've seen yet, but being able to kind of sit there and recover a little bit with the grassy terrain as well. You know, the Water Spout is definitely about to be off. I think with the amount of damage being taken by this Kyogre, you're going to have to start fishing with our good friend Origin Pulse. But at the end of the turn, you're going to sleep anyway. And that is something that the Gastrodon this turn could potentially just protect itself. Make sure that the Kyogre goes to sleep before you take any more damage. I think that's the big thing, because then you're just 1v1ing that, or 2v1ing the Rillaboom essentially for at least a turn.
And Naoto is forced to protect on the Gastrodon, because anytime he does not protect, it's going to get knocked out from the Grassy Glide. So, as you were saying, Adam, Origin Pulse is going to miss onto both of these because they have protected, and Kyogre has to go to sleep.
Yeah, Kyogre's going to sleep, and it's still getting burned. Of course, there's a little bit of recovery, so it's not as impactful, but it is certainly starting to add up on this one. It's causing problems. Obviously, the Leftovers recovery, making that Groudon look really, really healthy, and that Groudon's already almost back to full health. And this Rillaboom, yeah, it's getting a bit back, but it's just not looking the best. Now, the Kyogre going to sleep, I think, means you could potentially take the Gastrodon out for a moment, and then bring something in that can capitalize.
That's right, because he still, Naoto has the Pokemon advantage. That's what he was working towards earlier on by switching his Groudon out early and then bringing it back. He wanted to keep that weather advantage and the Pokemon advantage. So Naoto still hasn't even revealed his fourth Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to reveal it. Obviously, the Gastrodon's in a really tough position. The Grassy Glide goes into the Groudon. It's not enough.
Instead of the Gastrodon, everybody thought the Gastrodon would be targeted there, but Groudon actually hangs on. Heat Crash in the sun into the Rillaboom, and that takes it out. That was a very gutsy play out of Shohei, and it almost worked.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that the Gastrodon wasn't going to be a massive concern, but, you know, being able to say, well, you're probably protecting, I'll get the damage down on the Groudon, absolutely huge, but the Groudon very correctly just punishing him in return, saying, fine, Grassy Glide me all day. I've recovered so much and not been burned constantly between turns. I've got Leftovers. You've given me Grassy Terrain. Actually, your Grassy Glide isn't going to be able to knock me out, so all of that recovery didn't even look close. 63 health at the end of the turn. Feeling really good, and at the end of the day, yes, there's only one more turn of Harsh Sunlight, but the big question is, what are you going to do to Gastrodon?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. Either way, even if you get the knockout on Groudon, the Gastrodon, Kyogre still can't touch it. You're gonna Hyper Beam and take a turn or every other turn of just sitting there, and eventually the Gastrodon will be able to take you down, can put you back to sleep and everything like that. So Naoto is just playing incredibly well right now.
This game is completely locked. There is no consistent way to get this Gastrodon. I mean, obviously a Hyper Beam would hurt a lot, but this Gastrodon feeling really good, and it's even better when you've got this Pokemon in Kyogre asleep. Now, Kyogre does wake up, and it goes for it. The Origin Pulse is just going to give more boosts over to this Gastrodon.
And the Kyogre's already such low health anyway that any boost is going to help Gastrodon take it out. This Origin Pulse does connect onto both of the Pokemon, though. Hitting into the Groudon does take it out. Finally, Naoto is going to have his last two Pokemon, but he might not even have to reveal that fourth Pokemon thanks to the Storm Drain boost from this Gastrodon in the Earth Power, and it is knocked out, and Naoto Mizubuchi is going to win Game 1 here in Round 7. He is one win away from making Top Cut and potentially defending his title.
He's one win away from going 5-2 from an 0-2 start too. That is so impressive, and honestly, what I really like about that game, we talk about it sometimes up here on the desk, is he hides a vital piece of information. What is that last Pokemon? I love the G-Max Wildfire play because he knows that it's going to get the knockout on Incineroar, but that residual damage just adds up in such a nasty way that it's so hard to clutch this one out, and the leads looking identical from both of our trainers here.
In Game 2, Shohei Kimura has to do something to win this to force Game 3, or his championship hopes are over. Naoto with that Charizard, Groudon, and Shohei with Kyogre and Zacian just again. I wouldn't be surprised if Naoto even has some defensive investment in the Charizard because of how pivotal weakness policy is. You know you don't have to go fully offensive because weakness policy is going to make up for that.
As long as you get activated on the regular, you can definitely get a little bit more out of your Charizard than the standard build where you just train it to be fast and powerful. And that's something that I think a lot of trainers have picked up on. My big concern is for those trainers is when you don't get the weakness policy, it feels a little underwhelming and it looks a little underwhelming too. So maybe if Shohei doesn't give him that advantage, things do change up. And after what happened to it turn 1, yeah, Zacian's not having it.
Yeah, and Shohei also is not going to be so freely, able or excited to give him the weakness policy boost now that he knows he doesn't get the KO and he's holding that item. You're not going to attack that slot unless you know you can knock it out. Shohei is going to Dynamax the Kyogre on this turn, though. So you might have a similar strategy at least, but this time, do you target down the Groudon slot instead of the Charizard?
I mean, the Charizard doesn't look like it's going for the, the big play here, and that's going to change things up a little bit. Maybe just trying to read the room a little bit differently. I do love the switch into Incineroar. I think it provides something so different. Okay, it is going for it.
Yeah, Kyogre is just faster than the Charizard.
No. Let's take a look and see what the Dynamax is. It's going to be Groudon,
Oh,
Joe.
That's right. He does not Dynamax, or Gigantamax Charizard. It's Dynamax Groudon.
So, what's really cool that he can do here is immediately turn off the Max Geyser Rain with, Max Flare.
Ooh,
a Blast Burn, turn 1. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it sure is. It is going to do half the damage, though, to the Incineroar on the switch in. Max Strike targeting the Charizard. This is what we were saying. He doesn't want to hit the Charizard at full HP, because even if he did G-Max, it wouldn't have knocked out. So you go for the Strike, and then the Geyser on the following turn for the KO. But Naoto with his Dynamax Groudon, Max quaking into the Kyogre slot, not the Incineroar there. He could have got a KO if he was able to do that, but maybe wasn't expecting Zacian to switch out and thought Blast Burn would be able to handle it. Instead, he is going to get the special defense boost onto both of his Pokemon.
I think he was expecting the exact same play, but mixing up how he did it, right, would be, maybe take the Behemoth Blade into the Charizard, then let the Charizard fire back with the Blast Burn, knock out the Zacian, then, of course, Max Quake and help out the Groudon. But the big thing here is there was no Max Geyser. So this is still Groudon's game to play, and I think the Max Strike makes a lot of sense. That does mean that the Charizard, with no Max Airstream, is going to start to get outsped and can get picked off a little bit early. But this Groudon's feeling really, really good. Yeah, another Max Strike into that Charizard is just going to remove it from play. But what is Groudon going to do in response? That's my big question.
And Groudon has now had his speed lowered 2 times.
It's going to get Parting Shot, I imagine, here as well, just to make sure that the Intimidate and the Parting Shot means the damage is very, very low. I do like this a lot from Shohei.
And at that point, if you are just going to try to max Quake 3 times, your damage is not going to be strong enough. So sure, you get all those that extra bulk from the special defense increases there, but your damage you're able to try to do back to the Kyogre is just not going to be enough. Shohei bringing Rillaboom in as his 4th Pokemon, the same 4 Pokemon that he brought in Game 1. And this is Ready saying, you cannot switch in Gastrodon on this turn, or the following turn, I should say. Max Quake from Groudon here after the parting shot is going to be even less damage. This Kyogre is still over half HP after 2 Max Quakes.
This Kyogre has basically done a really tough job of standing on the field and causing problems. You know, it's got big special defense, but it's also got very low speed, very low attack now as well. So a tough one for Naoto, who's put a lot of eggs in the Groudon basket and just not able to bring them in and cook a delicious breakfast with them yet. Just waiting to try and get there. There's the reveal of the last Pokemon, though. It is going to be Lunala, along with its favorite partner, Groudon.
Yes, the tried and true combination Naoto used to win the 2019 World Championships for VGC. I think the Lunala isn't as worried about the Rillaboom, obviously, as Gastrodon would be, because the Rillaboom, unless it has knockoff, wouldn't be able to hit it super effectively there. And Groudon, with this last turn of Dynamax, do you just want to give a boost to Lunala and, you know, help it out, make it a little bit bulkier so it can take hits from Kyogre better?
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty solid play. I think after this, you may have to just switch out the Groudon because the Groudon is exceptionally slow. And honestly, the Groudon's day could get even worse. As soon as that Incineroar pops back in, things are going to change. But is it going to be even afforded that opportunity? Oh, a Grassy Glide just to break the ability there. I really, really like that. And yeah, the Max Geyser is a bit problematic here. Maybe defending against an incoming Max Flare. But yeah, this is really well taken, honestly. The Sun helping out so much there.
Yeah, nowhere near enough damage to knock out Lunala on now. Max Flare, not Max Quake. You want to reset up the Sun so Kyogre does not do much damage. You don't care that you hardly did any damage to the Rillaboom there, because the more important part was getting the Sun back up.
Yeah, but what's really cool here is the Trick Room. Lunala definitely moving after that Groudon, gives it away immediately. Those speed boosts could be coming back to haunt a little bit because, you know, this Lunala is definitely not the fastest thing about. It's one of the problems people have been seeing with it while trying to play with it. And yes, you know, you've been lowering speed on this Groudon. Yes, it has a lower attack. At least it has to go first with its Precipice Blades now.
Yeah, it is going to be weak Precipice Blades, but he does get to hit it first, and you know there's always a chance at a critical hit to negate those attack drops. Lunala is a Pokemon that, like, traditionally can be pretty solidly fast, but because of how this format is played out, you want that bulk, you want to be slower, and you want to take advantage of your Trick Room.
That's a big thing, is being able to play in your own Trick Room. And maybe this is why Naoto is so desperate to keep the Lunala a secret in game number 1, as this could really swing the game very, very quickly. I do think Lunala can put down some really good damage, and with the Sun up as well, there is going to be a number of problems for, you know, trying to get all of this damage down that your Kyogre traditionally loves to do.
Yeah, this is really intense right now. It doesn't get any better than in the last round to move on to the winning in of Top Cut. You have 2 of the best players in the world going at it. Incineroar is going to switch into the Kyogre slot there. Just wants yet another Intimidate down on this Groudon, really trying to lower all of its damage as low as he possibly can. And now with a Protect from Rillaboom, so that's not Assault Vest, obviously, since we think the Kyogre is holding it, he has access to Protect on his Rillaboom. Precipice Blades will connect onto the Incineroar, though. It is half health, and it does knock it out. Incineroar goes down because of the critical hit.
Go on, Incineroar. Drop me to -3 attack. I'll just crit you out the game anyway.
Happens.
I dare you. I dare you, Incineroar. What a big turn for Naoto. There is going to be the Meteor Beam charging up immediately with the help of the power-up, but it goes right into that Protect.
But the Protect doesn't even matter because you still get the boost from the Meteor Beam. You don't need to click a Rock Attack on anyone else on Shohei's side. You just wanted the special attack boost.
Yeah, that's actually great for him, as he managed to get a special attack boost. That Lunala could just start to run away with the game. I mean, the big thing is Lunala's not hitting anything super effectively, which is a bit of a slowdown, but with a special attack boost and no way to parting shot it now, that is really, really nice for Lunala. This Groudon just staying on the field, just going about its business, not a care in the world. Lower my attack, lower my speed, I'll take advantage of it in Trick Room and crit you anyway. That is Naoto having a great day there.
Zacian is the switch in for Shohei, though, going to keep the Kyogre in the back still later on. Maybe once Trick Room is over, we know the Kyogre is faster, so if you can have Trick Room done and Kyogre back with the rain on the field, that could be his best way of coming back.
You got to remember, though, there is a 4th Pokemon for Naoto that we haven't seen, and it could just be all about getting rid of the Rillaboom. Also, another Pokemon that loves Trick Room, Gastrodon. It's pretty slow, so it would do really well. I mean, if this if you knock out the Groudon, then you're just going to give that a free switch, and as long as that Groudon goes down, you know, in exchange for the Rillaboom, that could be really, really big. But Naoto playing this one out so nicely. I think he's put on a really good show here. If I'm Shohei, what I'd probably be looking to do is ignore the Groudon for a little bit. I just don't think it's that important. It's not going to get another crit, or you have to hope it's not going to get another crit. But yeah, I think saving the Rillaboom here is very, very wise. You need it to deal with a potential Gastrodon endgame.
Kyogre will go into that Rillaboom slot on the switch-in, resetting up the rain thanks to its Drizzle ability. Precipice Blades connecting onto both of Shohei's Pokemon, but doing a lot less damage this time around as he does not get a critical hit on either of those slots. Boosted Moongeist Beam thanks to the Meteor Beam Power Herb from the turn before here, so Moongeist Beam is going to do a lot of damage into Kyogre, but not enough because of the Assault Vest. Kyogre hangs on, and Behemoth Blade from the Zacian in retaliation towards Lunala is not going to be enough. 6 HP. Lunala hangs on.
That is so close, and I think the Zacian there thinking, you know what, I'll save the Rillaboom, but, you know, maybe just give up the Kyogre. As long as that Lunala goes down, then you're in a position where you're just stuck with this weak Groudon, the Gastrodon, you bring the Rillaboom in, and it cleans up. Not allowed, though. The Lunala says absolutely not, comes in, clings on. I mean, the Lunala can get picked off by a Grassy Glide at any point, but the big thing is, you know, it's still in a good position to throw out another potential Moongeist Beam. Honestly, this Groudon could do just enough to make this really, really difficult. And then you're making Rillaboom go in this awkward 2v1, but it only has single target attacks. So I think the damage that the potential Precipice Blades, if it hits both times, is going to be huge. If it can deal with something like that Kyogre just through that, then you can focus onto the Zacian a little bit, and then you're able to cause some problems.
Yeah, there are 2 turns of Trick Room left, so how can Shohei make it out of Trick Room here? He's going to protect on the Zacian. Obviously, Precipice Blades will go into that, but not do any damage. It does connect onto Kyogre, though. Let's see how much it is intimidated. Not enough there. Kyogre hangs on. Moongeist Beam goes into the protect here, so here we are down to the final turn of Trick Room next turn. Thunder, though, obviously targeting the Lunala since he can't hit the Groudon with it. That does knock it out. So that's pretty big for Shohei that the Lunala, which was doing the most damage on Naoto's team, does get knocked out.
That's actually the biggest thing on the team that he needed to knock out. Now you're in a 3v2 situation. If one of the two is the Gastrodon, this one is completely dealt with. And that Groudon has been so audacious to stay on the field after all of the drops to its attack. If it had switched out and come back in at any point, it would definitely be a different game, because that Precipice Blades, if it hit, would have knocked out. It would have done a lot more damage to the Zacian as well, and I think after that critical hit turn, you had to get it off the field. The big concern here is Trick Room only has one more turn. You are still trying to do enough damage. You can deal with the Kyogre this turn, potentially. I don't think you can get enough damage down on the Zacian. I think Zacian is potentially a little bit too much at this point, and then, you know, at some point, Rillaboom is going to come in, and all Rillaboom has to do is target correctly, and that's going to be really, really important. It's still a close game, but I do think having that Pokemon advantage and the Pokemon being Rillaboom is huge for Shohei.
Right, as Rillaboom is able to use that Grassy Glide into both Groudon and Gastrodon here, we are potentially 1 Trick Room turn away from the Zacian and Kyogre forcing a Game 3. Let's see if we get that. Precipice Blades connect onto both, and it is enough to take out the Kyogre, so it goes down even with all of those attack drops. Groudon is still putting in work, and the play rough from Zacian, it's a 1-hit KO because of the critical hit. Shohei has gotten rid of the Gastrodon. It is just Groudon against 2 Pokemon. Trick Room is over, and Shohei's forcing Game 3.
A -3 attack, -2 speed Groudon as well. So even if it manages to hit, it's going to be hitting into this Rillaboom with very, very low damage. Doesn't have the sun either. The rain is still 2 turns away, and that is going to be a big problem. Yes, it would be nicer to attack out of the rain, but at some point, you know, you're still relying on a critical hit, most likely, to be able to make up for the fact you are at -3 attack.
He is going to protect here on this turn because of the fake out Rillaboom. You don't want to take that damage for free. You might as well protect even though you know it's not going to matter.
And you let the Zacian go to sleep. because the Zacian is getting caught by the Yawn. So really, for at least this turn coming up, you're in a 1v1, but the 1v1 is against a Rillaboom with grassy terrain up, and it's probably feeling pretty good. We do know that it can take a grassy glide, but, you know, how many of those can it take, and can it get a knockout in retaliation?
Right, because if you take the time to press misplace to try to hit both of them, you're not knocking out the Rillaboom, and Rillaboom just needs 2 grassy glides to knock you out. So, you know, you could also try to wait for the rain, go for double protect, and try to get the rain out and go for, you know, heat crash or something, but he's not going to opt for that. Instead, grassy glide brings him down to under half of his HP. You know Zacian's not going to attack because this is his first turn of sleep, so it all comes down to the Groudon, and Bulk Up revealed as Groudon's 4th move, increasing his attack and defense by 1 stage. The rain stops, but the grassy terrain, or the grassy glide from Rillaboom, I think is still going to be enough to take it, and it's a full health Zacian, too.
Really relying on that defense boost to help out, because you're still at -2, right?
You can protect this turn, get more, you know, get more from your leftovers.
But, okay, if you protect this turn, then my concern is, when's the Zacian waking up, right? You can't do that. So, you know, as long as the grassy terrain is there, I mean, you've got 3 turns as well, you know, you just need to hit that attack. Yes, you protect this turn, but then you're still in grassy terrain. The Zacian's had another opportunity to wake up and just follow up with the damage as well. So while I see where Naoto is going with this, I still think he's potentially too far away to clutch this one in Game 2. But it's okay. There's Game 3 for both of these trainers.
Protect from the Groudon on this turn for Naoto, like we were talking about. Just want to recover a little bit of HP as much as you can. You got to play to all your outs in Pokemon. That's how you can potentially pull games back. It would seem impossible at certain points. The Zacian still asleep there and just have a little recovery.
Yeah, it's going to get some from the leftovers, some from the grassy terrain, bringing it back above half. And obviously, the last grassy glide did well over half, but that was before the bulk up. So the bulk up raising a defense one as well as the attack. I don't think the attack really helps that much. There is the rain gone as well, so if it does try and land for a heat crash, it will at least be doing the normal damage. No boost, but that's better than nothing. And you really need the Zacian to stay asleep as well. The grassy glide is going to land this turn, and even if it clings on, if the Zacian wakes up, it doesn't matter. It's just able to catch you with pretty much anything and knock you right out. Don't forget that Zacian has held on to its Intrepid Sword boost from earlier, so it is doing a huge amount of damage. The grassy glide, not enough.
Bringing it down into the red. Zacian wakes up, and the Behemoth Blade will target into the Groudon, taking it out, and Shohei Kimura will bring us to a Game 3 in the last round of Swiss at the Pokemon World Championships. What else do you want, Adam?
Naoto's defense of his World Championship title here in 2022. You know, he holds the last one. He holds the old school trophy. We've got some newer trophies. They're a little bit bigger, and I'm sure he wants to get his hands on those. There's going to be the same leads from both of these trainers for the 3rd game running, though, and these opening changes have been so impactful.
Yeah, Charizard and Groudon for Naoto, Zacian and Kyogre for Shohei. There is no more wiggle room. There's no room for mistakes. One misplay, one bad turn that doesn't go your way can cost you a chance at becoming world champion.
And you need to win this one to be in Top Cut tomorrow. And it's going to be so close. I think the decision on what Naoto Dynamax is going to make or break the early portion of this game. Shohei obviously only has one choice, and he's shown us that he's very committed to just making sure that the Kyogre gets to Dynamax every single turn. It does so much. The Max Strike feels very, very useful, especially if you're getting hit by Max Airstreams. The Max Geyser can take control of the weather, and that's really big. I think, of course, what Naoto was trying to do in the last game was bluff with the Behemoth Blade going into the Charizard, but the Groudon being able to do so much, right? You know, set up this massive Max Quake while you Behemoth Blade a non-Dynamax Pokemon felt very silly, but he's making the switch again, and it is going to be the same switch he did in game number 2, which he did win. So if Naoto has learned from that, is he going to be able to punish it?
And both trainers taking as much time as they can to make that decision because they understand how pivotal of a turn 1 this is. No switches on Naoto's end because he will decide to Gigantamax the Charizard this time around. This is the strategy that helped him win game 1. Can it help him win game 3?
It's going to have to be something a little more impactful. I mean, right now, you know, the Groudon actually just got intimidated, so that is definitely not the best Dynamax candidate, and being able to switch that back to the Charizard, I think, is absolutely huge. But right away, we are going to see a matching Dynamax from Shohei. Does he have an answer to this Charizard? Is he going to be forced to just Max Strike it for a couple of turns? Or is there a way where, you know, he can just sit around and you know, play carefully around that weakness policy? Does he maybe just go for it with something like the Max Lightning, thinking it's not going to Dynamax and just being able to get a knockout through that? It's going to be a really big turn 1 here, as G-Max Wildfire just connects, and we know what that can do to these Pokemon. It doesn't get a knockout this time, but it's going to start getting that residual damage down, and that's also going to help out a whole lot.
It does over half to the Incineroar, so another one would be able to knock it out. And the Max Strike from Kyogre, as we've been mentioning, Shohei is not in a position to be able to max Geyser because of the potential Gastrodon switch, and so you have to go for the Max Strike to lower their speeds. Precipice Blades does connect onto both, and it will be able to knock out Incineroar. Shohei is down to his last 3 Pokemon here at the end of turn 1.
That's a big turn for Naoto, though, getting rid of that Incineroar, meaning that what happened to his Groudon in game number 2, even though it was the Dynamax, and I think it was much more important, not getting intimidated, parting shotted intimidated, means that Groudon has a lot more wiggle room and doesn't feel quite as bad, because the Precipice Blades is still going to hurt a Zacian. That's something that you can't just ignore. Of course, the Zacian does get its boost from Intrepid Sword, but, you know, the Max Strike did help out a lot. I think we're undervaluing the Max Strike. Yes, it didn't activate the weakness policy, but now, with the Max Strike, look at the turn Shohei has available to him. Behemoth Blade and then a Max Geyser will definitely get that Charizard after the amount of damage that the Max Strike took. So the Charizard may be forced into being a little bit cautious here, and in that turn, you know, if you Max Guard the Charizard, can the Groudon do enough work after it's intimidated from the Incineroar? If not, things could get a little bit dicey. But, you know, you're already taking a good amount of damage. You've got that solar power ticking through as well. I think a lot riding on this. And if you're worried about the Max Guard from the Charizard, can Shohei capitalize on that? Just knock out this Groudon, potentially.
In game 1, he switched out Groudon so he could try to, like, save it later, bring it back in to reset the weather. He does not switch this time around. Behemoth Blade, though, goes into the Groudon instead of the Max Guard. Naoto was really hoping for that Behemoth Blade to target into the Max Guard, and Shohei does not fall for it. Max Geyser, he calls it. No Gastrodon switching. It's Max Geyser into the Groudon, and Groudon gets knocked out.
That's it. No more Sun. There's no way to switch out and obviously switch it back in when it's been knocked out, Joe. There's no way to set up the Sun. So this Kyogre, not only does it have a speed advantage now, it has a very significant weather advantage for the rest of this game. The big thing now is going to be getting in that Gastrodon safely, and as soon as this Rillaboom inevitably gets revealed, are you going to have an answer to it? I think in that turn 1 play, the one thing that concerns me is you didn't go for the Max Airstream. I know the Wildfire damage is so cool. It does a really nice chunk between turns, but was it the correct play? Not when you're losing on speed now.
And especially because Max Airstream neutralizes Max Strike, and the double target from Precipice Blade's Max Airstream would still KO the Incineroar on the switch-in.
Yeah, it was more than enough. That said, you know, you are going to have to be a little bit cautious with this Gastrodon right now. Throw out that Lunala. Potentially, there's a Trick Room angle on here, because if it's Gastrodon in the back, you're going to need to be going first. You want to be making sure the Lunala moves before something like the Rillaboom as well. But there is a lot being asked on this turn. You know, maybe this is the last turn of Charizard, right? It's not going to be able to Max Guard again. And at the end of the day, you know, if you just say, okay, Charizard's getting knocked out, you're going to be forced to play this Lunala and another Pokemon in the back, because it's so easy to deal with this Charizard. That last turn's prediction is coming back to haunt Naoto in this one.
Right, because he can't Max Guard this turn. You only have a 30% chance of actually making it work. Behemoth Blade will bring it down to around 50% or 50 HP, and Max Strike from the Kyogre will clean up the rest of its HP there. So a really difficult turn from Naoto these last 2 tries, as the Dynamax is finally over at the end of this turn. Charizard is down. Groudon is down. Naoto is finally having to rely on Lunala and his last Pokemon. And it's probably something slow like the Gastrodon, so that's why you click Trick Room on this turn.
But the big thing here is the Gastrodon is so scared of the Rillaboom. You know what doesn't care about Trick Room? It's going to be a Grassy Glide. It's a priority move with the grassy terrain up. There's no easy way to change that around. So certainly a tricky one. And what's really big here is where can he weave in that Meteor Beam, right? Where do you think he can get that? Because it's not a super effective hit on anything now, and you usually want it to be a super effective hit on something like a Thundurus or something like a Charizard, Incineroars. They're all good candidates for it, and you feel, yes, I want the special attack boost, but do I want to miss a knockout because I'm not using a same type attack boosted move? This game is so close. I have to imagine it's Gastrodon in the back. It's been there the first 2 games. Any mix-up here could cause so many problems for Shohei. I mean, you know, if it's going to be something a little bit different, that's going to be a problem. It's the Incineroar. I really like this.
It's not not the Gastron. It is Incineroar as Naoto's last line of defense in this round. It's Lunala versus Incineroar. Dynamax is over.
That's why he didn't switch it in, because he didn't have it, Joe. That's why he didn't bring it to either of those max guys.
It's a big brain play. You can't switch in Gastron if you don't bring it.
Yeah, I mean, but then at the end of the day, I mean, Shohei was just throwing out that max Geyser, thinking you're not going to do the switch in because you didn't do it in the previous game. So thinking about it that way makes the difference. And honestly, I think the Incineroar is huge here, right? Because the Incineroar can catch something with the fake out. That'll be potentially the Zacian. And then maybe that gives you enough wiggle room to Meteor Beam into the other Pokemon, Kyogre, for example. You know, with the special attack boost, do you feel you can get it? It is, of course, going to get caught by the Wildfire between turns as well. So that's going to be a really big problem. Yeah, here comes Rillaboom. What I think Shohei is doing here is trying to save that rain for later, because he is going to need that boost. You do not want the game to be played out of rain, because then Incineroar can just catch the Rillaboom at some point. Fake out, though, going into that Rillaboom.
Yeah, so a wasted fake out here because Rillaboom just switched in. Now the Meteor Beam is going to be used on Lunala's side. That is going to boost its special attack by 1 stage. Usually a 2-turn attack, but thanks to its Power Herb held item, it's going to be used in 1 turn. Meteor Beam, though, targeting down into the Rillaboom. There is a neutral hit, but not enough for a knockout. So the Rillaboom is going to stick around and potentially cause havoc in the following turns. Behemoth Blade from Zacian towards the Lunala is not going to do too much damage thanks to that Shadow Shield ability.
No, the Shadow Shield helping out significantly there. And here comes that damage from G-Max Wildfire. That is so much. Bringing it down very low. Of course, there is a little bit of recovery that helps all of these Pokemon out. I do think the Meteor Beam targeting there into the same Pokemon you were fake outing seems a little bit unnecessary, right? If you're taking one Pokemon out, why do you need to throw it down that way?
It's not going to attack you at all that turn anyway.
Yeah, so missing the knockout there, definitely a problem. I think if you just faked out the Zacian there, which I imagine Naoto was looking at it thinking the Zacian was going to protect. You know the Kyogre can't because of the Assault Burst, but that's really big. I think the Kyogre is waiting for a position where it can set up the rain again and make sure to tank these attacks. Rillaboom protecting here, though, could draw attacks its way. Yeah, double protect makes so much sense to start working through the Trick Room.
Yeah, you have to get through these turns if you are Shohei. So that double protect means that Naoto is not going to get any additional damage on the field right now. Flare Blitz, even in the sun, or in the rain, excuse me, would not have done too much damage there anyway. So you're going to have a little bit of leftover recovery from all of these Pokemon here. And Shohei is still in the driving seat.
Shohei's definitely in the driving seat. And being able to save the Kyogre to come back in the rain and wrap up with a massive water spout potentially once Trick Room is over is very, very appealing. Kind of leaving the Zacian there to get dealt with is not really the worst thing in the world, but at the end of the day, you know, you want it in the rain. The rain would also help, like, whatever is left. So let's say the Rillaboom gets knocked out, the rain would definitely help cover that Zacian a little bit as well, because then those Flare Blitzes aren't going to be as impactful. So keeping that in mind is certainly something that Shohei's done, and you know, it's going to be really difficult to do with this Kyogre at the end, because yes, you've got a special attack boost, but there's still an Assault Vest over on to that Kyogre.
Yeah, that Assault Vest is going to be very helpful later on trying to take a hit from the Lunala. Grassy Glide, though, brings it down to around half of its HP, and then Moongeist Beam from Lunala is going to have, remember, it has to move second because Grassy Glide has priority, does not care about the Trick Room while Grassy Terrain is up. That is a KO onto the Zacian, though, so Zacian's not able to retaliate and knock it out this turn.
In the rain.
And the Flare Blitz is in the rain into the Rillaboom, but it is so low that it is going to knock out. And wait, the Kyogre is now the last Pokemon standing. The rain stops at the absolute perfect time for Shohei as he's able to bring it back out. The Kyogre will be able to reset up the rain. Yeah, the Kyogre's going to have the rain, and it's going to be doing extra damage. The Grassy Terrain is sticking around, giving a little bit of recovery over, and it's the last turn of Trick Room here. So the Kyogre is going to have to come in. What's really important, though, is the Kyogre's already low, and this Incineroar can just kind of try and keep it in check with, like, early parting shots, just saying, you know what, I'm not going to let you do the damage. With the rain, does it do enough damage to this Lunala that's also at half health? At the moment, it is going to get double targeted in this Trick Room right now by 2 anythings, and don't forget there's the Meteor Beam boost. Naoto Mizubuchi has a turn to just knock out this Kyogre. If he doesn't get there, then it's going to be a tricky situation, but he's got 2 slower Pokemon in a Trick Room. And Shohei does not have Protect because of the Assault Vest. So you can't even try to wait this last turn of Trick Room. It's going to come down to Naoto's Lunala clicking the Moongeist Beam onto Kyogre. If he's able to hang on, well, then he's also got to hit the Origin Pulse too. I mean, hitting the moves is certainly the hardest thing. It's like 50-50, isn't it? Lunala reveals the
wide guard!
He's got wide guard on Lunala, so spread attacks will not work this turn. Parting shot from the Incineroar is going to lower his special attack and attack by one stage. Origin Pulse just gets blocked.
That is so audacious. Lunala has said, no, you're not going to be able to hit me with either of your water type attacks. Those are the biggest attacks in its kit, especially when the rain is set up. Not able to land a water spout or an Origin Pulse. It could just lock that in. The Trick Room has ended, but even when he gets to attack now, that parting shot has gone down. So this is a really big turn.
This is incredible to see here. The Incineroar being saved as its fourth Pokemon. Naoto deciding not to bring Gastrodon could be the reason he could move on to the finals. This is the best of VGC, and we're seeing it at the world's stage. Wide guard from the Lunala yet again. There's nothing that he can do about it. You have to Thunder.
Ooh.
It will connect because the rain is up. That gives Thunder 100% accuracy. It does not do much damage, but it does get the paralysis. Every turn now, Lunala might be paralyzed. You can parting shot again, but that 30% chance of the paralysis could be huge.
But at the end of the day, all he wants to do, look at what Naoto is doing. He's just parting shotting every single turn. This is now at -2. How far is he going to go with the parting shots? The Lunala, is going to be sticking around. My one concern is if the play is parting shot, parting shot, parting shot, at some point, when does the critical hit happen? That is such a gamble to take, and I don't know if that's the perfect strategy. Maybe now you're paralyzed, you can't be as cheeky, because if you wide guard, the wide guard could just fail as well. That is a massive concern for Naoto, so maybe this is the turn to just go for it. I'm very, very concerned. If the wide guard fails, Origin Pulse is going to hit.
Just like on that turn, he wide guarded, but he clicked Thunder, so it doesn't matter.
It was a waste.
That was a turn that if you clicked Moongeist Beam, you would have done so much more. Water Spout, there is no wide guard here. Water Spout's going to connect onto both, bringing it to other help. Not enough. The paralysis, this is huge for Naoto. The Flare Blitz is going to go first. It's in the rain. It's a water type, not doing too much damage there, obviously. So it's ineffective. It's all up to Lunala. He's going to click Trick Room here to I'm all twisted about just like the dimensions right now.
Well, the big thing here is you're paralyzed. You're going to be going first as the Lunala, and you get those parting shots in early. Look at that water spout. The damage it just wasn't able to do. I think the water spout is basically Shohei saying, you know what, I don't want to gamble on Origin Pulse's accuracy. That is going to be a massive problem. But is the Lunala just trying to fight through the paralysis and land one Moongeist Beam to get the knockout? The Incineroar Flare Blitz did absolutely nothing that turn, but at least it's damage to try and help out from potential water spouts. This is such a close game, and a tournament life is on the line in this insane 2v1, Joe.
This is all going to come down to Lunala. The Trick Room is up. He's going to wide guard on this turn, predicting a spread attack from Kyogre. Flare Blitz into the Kyogre, not doing much damage, but every little bit helps for that Moongeist Beam when he eventually wants to click it. And the burn will help as well. Every turn going to tick out more damage. Origin Pulse, 80, it's not going to hit at all because of the wide guard. The perfect turn from Naoto. You get a burn and you stop Origin Pulse.
These are the biggest mind games that I've ever seen. The horrible choice. Do I go for Origin Pulse? I can't Water Spout anymore because it's not going to be able to do enough damage. I can't
that
Water
burn
Spout.
might be enough because of that tick damage for Moongeist Beam to take it, break through the Assault Vest.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If he doesn't get it all the way there, and he does, as soon as he Moongeist Beams, you know what he's not doing? He's not wide guarding. Then if he lands a double Origin Pulse, things are looking awful for, Naoto on that side. It is going to be another wide guard, so let's see once again. Has Shohei tried it on?
What did Shohei go for? Here, we're going to have to wait through the Flare Blitz. Kyogre is going to be under half of its HP at this point.
What's a big one?
That's under half. You would think the Moongeist Beam would be pretty close. Origin Pulse,
no.
It is not going to work yet again because of the wide guard.
Yeah, but here comes that little bit of chip damage. And one thing to note is we haven't seen a full paralysis either. The damage is going to be getting, it has to go for the Origin Pulse now. There's no way that you can justify going for it with the Water Spout. It is, of course, 100% accurate, but it is now exceptionally weak.
Yeah, it is.
He's going.
It's Moongeist Beam. It's now under half HP. You have the +1 boost from earlier on in this match, and Naoto is going for it all through the Assault Vest. It is enough, and Naoto Mizubuchi is going to win this set. He started the day 0-2. He's going to finish it, moving on to Top Cut.